Why some businesses win easier than others? The leadership question. Most organizations never ask, most leadership teams spend enormous amounts of time asking the same question. How do we run this business better? It sounds like the right question. Operational improvement matters, execution matters, leadership capability matters, but before leaders ask how to run a business better, there is a far more important question they should ask first. What kind of business are we actually running? Because not all businesses operate under the same economic realities. Some businesses are structurally designed to compound value. Some require exceptional operational discipline just to perform well. And some consume enormous amounts of leadership energy while producing disappointing economic returns, regardless of how hard the organization works. That distinction changes everything. It changes strategy. It changes transformation priorities. It changes leadership expectations. And it changes what type of performance is realistically achievable. This is why one of the most useful frameworks in both investing and leadership thinking comes from Warren Buffett and has been explained effectively by investor and educator Brian Feroldi. The distinction between great businesses, good businesses, and gruesome businesses. At first glance, it appears to be an investing framework. In reality, it is also a leadership framework because it forces organizations to separate two variables that are often mistakenly treated as the same thing. Operational execution and business quality. Those are not interchangeable, and misunderstanding that distinction causes many organizations to misdiagnose the real source of their performance problems. Great businesses, when the economics work with you. A great business benefits from structural tailwinds. The business model itself creates leverage. These organizations typically possess some combination of strong competitive moats, meaningful pricing power, high margins, low or manageable capital intensity, recurring demand, strong cash generation, the ability to scale without proportional increases in cost. In businesses like these, the underlying economics naturally amplify good leadership. Strategic decisions travel further. Operational improvements create disproportionate returns. Revenue growth converts efficiently into cash flow. The organization does not need to constantly reinvest massive amounts of capital simply to maintain its position. That is an important distinction. Many businesses appear successful on the surface because revenue is growing. But beneath that growth sits a machine consuming extraordinary levels of capital just to sustain itself. Great businesses operate differently. The system itself generates excess economic value. This does not mean leadership becomes less important, it means leadership gains leverage. When leadership quality and strong business economics operate together, the results compound quickly. The organization gains momentum. Small improvements produce large outcomes. Execution accelerates value creation because the business model is structurally positioned to reward it. This is why great businesses often appear easier to lead from the outside. Not because leadership is easier, but because the economic physics of the business are working with management instead of against it. Good businesses, where leadership discipline becomes the differentiator. Good businesses occupy the middle ground. These businesses can still produce strong outcomes and create substantial enterprise value. Many highly respected organizations fall into this category. But unlike great businesses, the margin for error becomes much smaller. The economics are good, but not overwhelmingly powerful. Competitive pressure is often higher. Differentiation may be moderate rather than dominant. Pricing flexibility may be more limited. Capital demands may be more persistent. As a result, leadership discipline becomes critically important. In good businesses, execution matters more. Operational rigor matters more. Pricing discipline matters more. Capital allocation matters more. Decision quality matters more. These organizations require strong operating systems, not occasional bursts of leadership energy, not motivational initiatives, not reactive transformation programs. They require repeatable management discipline. The leaders who create exceptional outcomes in good businesses are rarely relying on structural advantages alone. They succeed because they build organizations capable of consistent execution. They reduce operational friction. They improve decision velocity. They align functions around shared priorities. They create accountability systems that allow the business to perform reliably over time. Good businesses reward disciplined operators, but they also punish inconsistency quickly. A few poor capital allocation decisions, operational inefficiencies, or strategic mistakes can erode performance rapidly because the structural economics are less forgiving. This is why leadership quality becomes far more visible in good businesses than in great ones. The business model no longer hides operational weakness. Gruesome businesses, when the economics work against you. Then there is the category few leadership teams openly acknowledge, the gruesome business. This is where organizations often become trapped in cycles of enormous effort with weak economic outcomes. Gruesome businesses are not necessarily poorly managed. That is the important point. Many are led by highly intelligent, disciplined, hardworking people. The issue is that the structural economics of the business are fundamentally challenging. These businesses often share common characteristics and weak differentiation, little pricing power, heavy capital intensity, continuous reinvestment requirements, thin or unstable margins, high competitive pressure, poor cash conversion, low returns on invested capital. In these environments, leadership becomes exhausting. The organization works harder and harder simply to maintain position. Revenue growth requires disproportionate investment. Margins remain under pressure. Operational improvements produce only incremental financial gains. The system absorbs leadership energy faster than it produces enterprise value. And this creates one of the most dangerous leadership illusions in business: the belief that every performance problem can be solved through better execution alone. It cannot. Because sometimes the issue is not operational discipline. Sometimes the issue is the economic structure of the business itself. The transformation misdiagnosis. This is where many transformation efforts fail before they even begin. When organizations struggle, the default assumption is almost always internal. Leadership capability must be weak. Employee engagement must be low. The culture must be broken. Execution must be failing. So companies respond accordingly. They redesign organizational charts. They launch leadership development initiatives. They implement new reporting structures. They create transformation offices. They introduce new management systems. Some of these actions may help, but many organizations are trying to solve structural economic problems with operational interventions. That is a fundamentally different challenge. Great operators absolutely create value. They improve throughput, reduce waste, strengthen accountability, accelerate decision-making, improve alignment, increase execution speed. But even great operators cannot fully overcome weak business economics. If the underlying business lacks differentiation, has limited pricing power, requires constant reinvestment, and struggles to generate healthy returns on capital, leadership will always be fighting uphill. No operating system can permanently eliminate unfavorable economics. The economic physics of business. Every business operates under a set of economic laws, what could be called its economic physics. These include competitive intensity, market positioning, pricing power, cost structure, capital requirements, cash conversion efficiency, scalability, customer switching costs, industry dynamics. Some industries naturally create strong returns on capital, others systematically compress them. Some business models naturally compound value, others consume leadership energy simply to survive. Understanding these structural realities is one of the most important responsibilities of senior leadership, because strategy without economic awareness becomes operational theater. Lots of activity, lots of meetings, lots of initiatives, but limited value creation. The question great leaders eventually ask. Over time, the best investors and the best operating leaders arrive at the same question. Are we optimizing a fundamentally strong business or trying to rescue a structurally weak one? That distinction changes how leadership should think about the future. If the business is fundamentally strong, leadership should focus on acceleration, scale, and protecting competitive advantage. If the business is fundamentally good but operationally sensitive, leadership should focus on discipline, operating rigor, and execution consistency. But if the business is structurally weak, leadership may need to think much more radically. repositioning, reinvention, business model redesign, market exit, capital redeployment, or structural transformation. Because pushing harder inside a flawed economic model rarely produces dramatically different outcomes. The leadership reality. Most organizations avoid this leads to a difficult but necessary truth. Great leadership in a great business can produce extraordinary outcomes. Great leadership in a good business can create meaningful and durable value. Great leadership in a gruesome business often looks like heroic effort with disappointing economics. That reality does not reduce the importance of leadership. It clarifies the role of leadership. Leadership is not separate from business economics. Leadership operates within them, which means before organizations blame teams, redesign performance systems, or launch another transformation initiative, they should step back and ask a more foundational question. Is the business itself designed to win? Because the most sophisticated leadership system in the world cannot fully compensate for a business model whose underlying economics are fundamentally working against it. And leaders who fail to recognize that distinction often spend years optimizing systems that were never structurally positioned to create exceptional value in the first place.